And we're back. And this never gets any easier. And I guess it doesn't matter, because we're gonna do it anyways. But yeah. So the last episode, we basically left off on the different households and my experiences in those different households. Now we're gonna follow through with that. But first and foremost, I haven't decided if I want my protein shake right now or if I want coffee. But we got both because options are good in life. So yes, we'll go for the coffee now because I feel like my nerves are, yeah. But yes. So I hope everyone's well, and everyone that's watching, I appreciate it. I appreciate the support, and everyone or anyone that is showing me any hate, you can fuck off. Everyone that is showing me love, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart, because again, this is not easy, and to get me to do this, there's like a whole prep. Like, I have to make sure my house has been saged. I have to make sure there's incense burning, make sure I have a candle burning. I have to make sure that I've showered and I feel good. And yeah, there's like a whole fucking prep to this, because in my head, it is bigger than what it is, which is just me sat here talking on camera, which is not that deep, but you know, in life we make things bigger than what they are. So yeah, so the last household, and obviously there was a lot of information last time, but I was thinking about this after my last episode, and I actually haven't watched it over, and I'm not going to, because I am going to talk myself out of posting these, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to talk myself out of anything, but since making the last episode, I have been doing so much, and I am prepping everything, in the works of getting other projects sorted. So I feel like my brain has been on a million things at once, but it's all good things, right? So to start off with the house that I really want to talk about, because it's the last house before I moved to this country, before I came to this country, not with the intention of moving here, but yeah, before I came to this country, it was the plantation house. Now, this house was the house that I originally mentioned in my first episode, that in plantation, right, there was like this gated off community of houses around lakes, very beautiful houses, right? Houses that are anything from 3 to 5 bedrooms up, right? And a lot of them were sat on the lake. And it was a gated community you'd have to come into. There wasn't necessarily a gate that you have to enter in order to enter like the houses, but it was like a community. Now, with this house, so to give you like imagery and try to tell a nice little story, there was the house, and then obviously there was loads of houses around it. Now, this particular area, it was like, if you want to use like English, British like terms to try to describe it, like as well as American, it was the posh house, it was the bougie house, it was the house that had money, the area that had money. But as many places are in the States, you turn the next road and it's the ghetto, yeah, and you see poverty. Guys, my accent and my pronunciation of things is absolutely horrendous, so don't cuss me. Anywho, so there was plantation, and in this area there was like the ghetto area, which wasn't necessarily ghetto, it just wasn't plantation, if that makes sense. And then there was 2 local schools, one of them being the upper class, the school that had money, the kids that had money, the kids that had higher education, and that was predominantly white. And then you had the ghetto school, which was 99% black and Hispanic and Colombian, and yeah, it was the black and brown school, basically, to break that down. And that school was the school that had security guards. So that was the gated school, that was the ghetto school. And then you had the white school, which again, I didn't experience because I didn't go to school there because they actually didn't accept me or my sister because we had no background or any history of education, because I didn't go to school until I was 10. So this was the house that we moved into, and I can't really remember how we got to this house. I just remember, and I don't know if these two memories are attached, right? Just because the way I remember things, like I've said before, I push things so far in my subconscious that not everything makes sense in like a linear order. So I think we got kicked out from the last house, obviously, from what I mentioned before. My biological mom and dad were getting back together. Now, I don't know why I keep referring as mom, dad, and then doing biological, but it's because in my brain, like, I've never associated mom and dad. I've always just thought, it took me a long time to even be able to say that name or to call them that. But I've had to do a lot of healing around it. So that's why we're even able to say that. But biological, because they weren't actually my parents. They weren't my mom and dad. And yeah, we'll get into that. Anywho, the memory before this, obviously, and I don't know again if this is attached, but I remember us being in my dad's friend's house, who I remember correctly was a lawyer, and he was doing drugs with my parents, and I was sleeping on the sofa, and because I couldn't sleep, I remember my dad giving me a shot of something. I know it was alcohol, I just can't tell you what alcohol it was. It was brown, that's all I know. So from there, it's fuzzy, and I don't know, I can't remember exactly how my parents got back together, but they got back together. Next thing you know, we've moved into this house. This house was absolutely beautiful, right? So to paint a picture, it was a 5-bedroom house. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so it was my sister's room, my room, and obviously my two sisters had their own room. I had my own room, and then my parents' room was downstairs. It was an ensuite with a bathroom. And then you had the living room and you had the kitchen. Now, in order to get to my room or my sister's room, you had to walk up the stairs, and there was like see guys, I can talk. I don't know why I just want to do this. This is like all my words and my descriptions of things are just gone. Because normally I'm known for talking and being able to tell stories, and that's why some people are like, Hunter, keep it short. Clearly this is where I struggle on camera. Anyways, so you had to walk up the stairs and then you had to go down the hallway, right? And now that little, where the ledge was, where the railing of the stairs were, like you could look over and you could see the living room, and you can see the dining room table, and you can see like the sofa, the TV, etc. And then you can see the kitchen because it was open planned. And then the room directly walking straight down the hallway was my room. And I can't remember if my older sister was on, I think it was the left side. So yeah, my room was there, and just to paint you a picture, downstairs we had the garden, we had the pool, and then like after the pool it kind of led into the lake, which did have alligators. So yeah, this was the house that I have a lot of memories in, just because I was older, and I was around 10 years old to kind of start off with everything. So I'm gonna try to go in order, but again, things are just gonna come to my head, so try to keep up. So, pardon. I'll start with the neighbor. Now, the neighbor that was next door to us, I don't actually know where they're from, but it was an older gentleman, and I remember my biological dad becoming friends with him. And when he became friends with him, yeah, there's too many memories popping in my head right now, and I'm trying to organize them. He became friends with him, and I always thought there was something really weird about this man, because it's not necessarily like he was gonna Like, it was, I don't know. I feel like as a kid, I just knew if I just got a weird, pervy vibe from someone. And he was someone who sometimes my dad would bring me and my sister over there, and it just felt very uncomfortable. Like, almost like, is my dad about to sell me to this man type of thing. So that was that neighbor, and that was always like very bizarre. But then I think that they fell out, and then long story short, like social services came, the police came, and it had been reported that obviously we had been getting abused, sexually abused, and there was drugs happening in the house. So then when the social workers came, they basically sat us down and asked us, and obviously, like I've said before, we would rehearse what we were told, which was mommy and daddy are actors, and we are fine, nothing's happening. So after that, they had to put us in school, and this is where they originally tried to take us to the first school, which was closer to our house, which was the school which was predominantly white. Obviously, we got rejected because we had no further education or any like history of education, because we didn't know how to read, write, maths, like, no, didn't know anyway. So from there, they took us to the second school, which was the predominantly black school, and they accepted us. And from a young age, when I mentioned previously, my first ever episode, like, I've been exposed to racism on an extreme level, right? But I never saw color. I never associated like black and white and then thinking this person's less than me because of a skin color. That makes sense. And it was the complete opposite. My friends growing up have always been of color. I've always somehow, I don't know, like, because I don't know if it's because of my hair, I don't know if it's because of my looks, I don't know why, but I've always just gravitated to culture. Like I don't know if it's because, like, even when I did start going to the ghetto school, like, it was hard at first because me and my sister were like, well, I think there was probably about 2, 3, 4. I can't remember seeing any other white people. That makes sense. But it wasn't because I was getting into fights, not because I was white, but because I was getting made fun of. My sister was getting made fun of because we couldn't read. But it was never color. And there was never a feeling of not feeling good enough because of my color, but because of the fact of kids are evil and they were bullying us. That's it. And I get it. So that school, I was getting into fights. I remember one time, and I was also doing athletics. And this is when, like, I was running, if I remember correctly, 400 meters, 800 meters, and then longer distance, and then doing relays. And funny enough, I didn't realize that I got a scholarship from that school until I came to this country. Then my friend, he sent me a picture of the scholarship, which that would have been incredible. But so I used to be good at running, guys. That's the more of that story. But yeah, I used to get into fights all the freaking time. It was the type of school where, like, I don't know, because of, like I said, the way I grew up, I was very aggressive and I knew how to fight. Anytime anyone said anything to me or to Taylor, like, I was ready to fight them. It was like, we're going outside, let's go. And after school, it'd literally be a crowd of people or be walking outside together. And then I'd be taking off my top and then taking off my earrings, and we're going at it. And the majority of the time I was fighting guys. It wasn't girls, it was guys. Like, that's just how it was. And it was just normal. I don't know how to describe it other than it was testing resilience. And I know some people like to talk about fighting, like talk about aggression and being able to do this and be able to do that. I don't find it like cool. I find it, no, it's not nice. And when people started finding out what was happening at the school and what was happening to me and my sister, I remember I was in science and like we would sit in a row. So like this is a proper American school, guys, where like even the cafeteria like had those long tables, and you sat from either side. You go up, you take your tray, go to the lunch lady, come back, sit down, and you would eat your food, and then it was in a massive hall, and then you'd go, right? So I was in science, and this guy, so this is day, right? He basically turned around, and I can't remember why we got into it, like why we were arguing, why we were like, because I don't have mouth. I've never been good with arguing, right? But something was said, and all I remember is him saying, "Oh, like your parents are crackhead," and then me nearly flipping out, and then my teacher sends me out first, and then sends him out, and then afterwards, all I remember is sitting in the cafeteria with my food and him coming up and me turning and getting punched straight in the face. And at that point, all I remember is getting up, looking at him, and a blackout. I remember my PT teacher picking up, and this is a big 6-foot black man. He was my coach. So he picked me up, lifted me, and all I remember is like I was hitting this guy. I don't remember if I was just smashing his head against the wall, but we ended up from where we were sat to at the wall, and me hitting this guy and me just trying to brutally murder him, basically. And this is why I talk about my aggression is not good, because I go straight to be killed or kill. So all I remember is literally going at this guy and beating him, and then next thing you know, gone home, and that was that. I think I was suspended from school for 2 weeks or whatever. So that had happened at that school, and obviously me and my sister had to go into special learning classes for reading and maths and all of that. So then another part of living into that house, so we were going to that school, and we were only there for about a year. So in that time, I had gone to, this is where it's really hard, because there's so many memories that are coming to my mind right now, but I'm trying to put them in order, but there's no specific order, so that's why it's just easier just to talk and blurt things out than it is to try to order things. So yeah, so the moral of the story was I was going to a school where like I identified that white people wouldn't accept me, but the black community would. And the reason for that is because white people were superior, and black people, they expected you not to have education. They didn't care if you had education or not. They would accept you either or, because they're going to accept you. Whereas white people in the white people school, and this is not for everyone, guys, like you have to understand this is the dynamic in the US and how it was then. I can't tell you if it's like that now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it still is, if I'm being totally honest. And that was like my first example as a kid seeing the division. So because I didn't have that history of education, I wasn't good enough for that school. They weren't going to accept me. And again, it's not about necessarily color, but it's about academically that school is predominantly white. But in the black school, it is predominantly black. And there's a clear correlation into why this school is accepting versus this school, because this school is used to taking in kids with lower education and less opportunity, whereas this school, you're only going to get into there if you have opportunity and you have money. And it's not because we didn't have the money, it's because they wouldn't accept us because of you have no academic and we don't fit your profile of what you want. So in terms of racism, there was a clear division there. And like the people that were going to this school versus the school I was going to, we never mixed, right? So, and it's not to say that the people that were going to my school that I went to were coming from poverty or didn't have money or were less fortunate. It wasn't. It was just a mix. It was a mixed bag. But everyone was accepted. Everyone was there to learn and to have fun, to be a kid. Whereas this school, you had to fit that narrative. And you were predominantly white. That's the reality. So, agree, disagree, but that was my reality. Alright, so when I talk about racism and colour, it's because I was taught from a young age with parents that are very racist. Like, my dad would go around saying the N-word like it's nothing. Like, he didn't give a f***. He thought he was superior. And I never took on that mentality, and I never felt that way. So that way, that's why when people try to say like, oh, when kids are being racist, I'm like, it's because it's been taught and because they've taken it on. But naturally, we don't see color. And like I said, I've grown up being around black people my entire life, and in terms of culture, in terms of being accepted, in terms taught how to take care of my skin, because I have very dry skin, how to take care of my hair, like even being accepted like features wise. I've been told I have a big nose. I've been told by white people, oh, you got a black nose. Oh yeah, you got big lips. Have you had your lips done? Because predominantly that's not necessarily features that white people have. And this is not for everyone, so please do not try to come for me. But understand, these are my experiences and this is what people have said to me. So I'm not saying, what I'm saying isn't factual necessarily. I'm telling you from my experiences. So when people are saying these things to me, and I've always, again, like I said, not necessarily fitted in, especially physique-wise, I've always had a bum. Like, black people, the black culture and people of color are just more accepting in terms of what I've experienced. I've always been more accepted. And it's always been shown to me it's not about how you look. Like, it's about what you have in you. Like, your heart, your kindness, how loving you are. That little fire in your belly that makes you want to go and make it happen. Like, yes, again, not all white people are like this, and this doesn't even come down to color anymore. This just comes down to people. But the reality is, like, there's been a division for years, for centuries, and we all know this. But my personal experiences are what I'm talking about. So I'm not gonna stand here for anyone to try to come and try to criticize my personal experiences, because I'm just talking from someone who has gone from one place and is now here. So if this can relate to you, great. If you understand where I'm coming from, great. If you don't, take a fucking great day. Don't come at me and try to leave any hate, because this whole thing that I'm trying to do, like I said, is be vulnerable and talk and spread that awareness. Because as a child, children are easily influenced. And the reality is, if you're growing up around like a racist household, the reality is 9 times out of 10 you're going to be very, very fucking racist. And if I had gone to the school that was predominantly white, that 9 times out of 10 I'd be fucking racist. No offense, not saying the school's going to breed it, but it breeds, like, this topic is fucking hard to talk about because it's so political. But 9 times out of 10, if you go and you're pre-exposed and you're exposed to racism, and then a division within color and there's a hierarchy and you're constantly only around the hierarchy, you're gonna believe you're better than those that it gets taught to you, those people are below you. And the way the system is, even though you don't see a lot, it demonstrates that Black people are in poverty and they are the less fortunate. Like, you see it in history, you see it in films, you see it day to day. If you're in the States, you see it in so many different examples, but I'm not trying to get into that. So my whole point is that you're not born racist. You're not born seeing color. That's instilled in you. And I'm a nominee because I've never seen color and I've never like understood why my dad was calling his drug dealer the N-word, and then him saying to him that the only reason why I even still deal with you and work with you is because you pay me well. Otherwise I'd have you shot. That was the relationship. Like, it wasn't like it was fucked. That makes sense. So, and somehow as a kid, because of the shit that they would do to me, and then I'd hear the way they talk about Black people, but then Black people wouldn't treat me like that. Like, I just knew as a kid. I don't know how, but I just knew. Right? So, yeah. So that was that school. And I was blessed because my teacher, my English teacher, she took a lot of time to teach me and my sister how to read, how to write, and actually help us, because we needed a lot of help. That was the reality, because we were behind ridiculously. So yeah, that was our school aspect. And obviously I was doing athletics, and then I had friends, and it was nice. Like, I can definitely say that that house in particular, I now had gone from not going to school, not having friends, to now being around people, being accepted, feeling loved, and going to my friends' parties, which I'd never gone to, like people's birthday parties, go to their house, we'll go swim in the pool and like do nice stuff, but then going back home and still facing the shit that was happening in my house. And that was obviously the fucked up part, like, of it, because it was like me never wanting to be home to deal with the shit that was happening in the house. Because, like, that house in particular is the house that I obviously remember the rape with my biological dad very vividly. And that's why I wanted to describe the house to you guys, because that was obviously the house that I remember it properly from. And that's also the house where I remember hearing my little sister, because my parents used to teach us, like, they sleep naked. So they used to teach us, like, you just sleep naked, just be naked, be comfortable in your skin, type of thing. Because you do as what your parents do as a kid. That's the reality. So it was normal to see my mom and my dad walking around the house naked. So, like, it was just normal to us. So I remember my little sister saying, like, on different occasions where my mom was there, because like I said, majority of the time she wasn't there, but the times that she was, I remember her waking up and being like, oh, mommy, daddy was touching me last night. And my mom would say to Taylor, oh, you were sleeping. And she would remember. She would remember, and my mom would just basically tell her she was sleeping or just ignore it. And yeah. And as I got older, I knew because obviously I knew what was happening. But as I've had to explain these things to social workers, talk to people about this, it's like now it's like the dots clicked. I was like, yeah, so your daughter, your youngest daughter, and my biological sister, she's about here. Like, she's tiny, and like her back, like you see my back now, her back sits to about here. Like, she is tiny, teeny tiny. So yeah, like, that was this house. And the way my mom and dad's bedroom was set up, they had this massive, beautiful bed made out of wood, and it had the pillars going up on each end. And then you had the bed here, and then if you turn, you had the bathroom. And as you walked into the bathroom, you had the shower and the bathtub. And then there was a sliding glass door which you could walk on the other side of the garden, on the back, and then make it to the back of the garden or the front of the house. Now, this was the bathroom that I remember the lights being off in the room, but my dad basically making me take pictures like a silhouette, because the light from the bathroom, like, I remember that. I remember this also being the house, because on the other side of the bed, there was sliding glass doors going onto the patio. This was the house that, because my parents would have different people over at this house, and like, my dad would have girls, random girls, drug dealers. Mom would have her clients. And this is up the house that I remember. My mom must have had a friend over, this guy, and my dad wasn't there. I don't know where my sisters were. A lot of the time, because my older sister was older, she would go and be with her friend, and she started school and she went to Pennsylvania for a bit. And we always thought that was cool, because we used to watch like loads of vampire films, and yeah, she got out. So I remember it was me, my mom, and her friend, and we're sat on the patio. And the way the patio was like, you had like the glass. Like, remember I said, like, so you have the living room, you have the dining room, and then you have the kitchen, and then you obviously have the stairs that go upstairs, and then from the living room you walk down and it's like my mom's room. Then you have the kitchen over here, and then you have the sliding glass doors that walk you out onto the patio to the pool, and there was chairs. So I was sat there with my biological mom and her friend, and they were smoking weed, and he passed me the zoo, and I was smoking with them, and then I just remember having a drink. And by this point, I'm about, like, let's say, I'm still probably around 10, 11, and I just remember being just like a little bit high, and then I just got this weird idea that I wanted to swim. So, like, my biological mom, they went to the room, and I went upstairs to get my swimming costume on. And I've come down to the pool area, or come downstairs from my room, and I'm in the pool, and there's lights on in the pool. And now, remember, there's sliding glass doors on the other side of the bed in my mom's room, but the curtains were drawn, they were open. And then I've swam towards the end of the pool because I'm doing laps, and then she's there sucking his dick. So I remember seeing her do that with him, and just, I remember stopping and being in shock, and then kind of like pulling my head underneath the water and kind of swimming back. And like, that's all I remember there. And then another occasion, my mom was not there, and my dad had this girl over, and I think they were like, that was his his side chick basically. And I think, if I remember correctly, this is the house we also built like a room in the garage for me. I don't know if this is the right house, but I feel like it is, but I'm trying to piece it together. And I've never spoken about this. But this is where, again, like, things like this will happen to you as a kid. It doesn't make it okay. It's just fucked up shit that's happened. And again, my pre-exposure to sex and like thinking that if someone is being sexual like that, it's a form of love, even though I know it's not. He had her over, and all I remember, and I can't remember everything about this, but all I remember is I was coming out of the garage, and you have to go through like a little room, and it had the washing machine and dryer, and then that went into the kitchen. So it was like the garage, the washing machine, and the dryer, and then you open that door and there's the kitchen. And I just remember being in the washing machine room, and then her coming in and shutting the door from the kitchen and kissing me and basically grabbing me and taking it way too far, basically. And that confused me, because then I thought, do I like girls? Like, what has just happened to me? Am I meant to like this? Am I not meant to like this? Like, you've just taken advantage of me. So like, that's then happened in that house. This is also the house, obviously, like I mentioned, that he raped me in, and I'm not going to go into too much. I'm not going to go in detail with that. Like, there's no need, do you know what I mean? But all I'm going to say is, like, anytime that anyone says no, just fucking stop. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't care if this is husband, wife, friend. I don't give a fuck who you are to that person. If you are in a relationship with them or not, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, any situation, like, obviously as a kid, you don't have like nothing you can fucking do, right? And for me, as much as, like I said previously, like, I was taught how to fight and I was strong, I wasn't strong enough to get him off me, and that's my reality, right? So I remember after it happened, I finally got out of the room, because it happened in my mom's room. I finally got out of the room, and then I ran upstairs to my room, and I remember him chasing me upstairs and basically coming into my room and grabbing me and then picking me up by my neck and putting me against the wall and telling me, if I ever tell anyone, he'll kill me. So like, obviously it's fucked. So that happened in that house. And then next part of the story. Let's drink coffee. So yeah, so that happened in that house. And then, wait, one sec, guys. One sec. All right, yeah, we're good. So that happened in that house. There was also other incidents, like, for example, I remember when my parents split up, or like, I don't remember how or when, but like, my mom had this boyfriend. Because like I said, my mom and dad were always off and on, and they had secret lovers. And they would always be like, oh, she's a narcissist, she's abusive, she's doing this, she's doing that, she's trying to keep my kids away from me. We would always be used as a pawn in this, right? So, like, you're both fucked. Like, there's no way around this. You're fucked. So yeah, so then she had this boyfriend who was an amazing man. Like, genuinely, from what I remember, like, as a kid, I was very fond of him. And he always reminded me of Shrek. So I always called him Shrek. And I thought he was like, he gave off the type of energy as like a protector. And I remember when she started seeing him, I really, really begged her not to leave him and to stay with him. Because he actually cared about us kids. Even though I know she was tapped. But like, I thought he was a good person. I remember it was, they had broken up or they hadn't spoken for a little bit. And he had come to drop off flowers and like a little present for my birthday. And I remember, I think it was like Shrek themed, if I remember correctly. And he knocked on the door, but obviously my mom and dad were in the bathroom doing crack. So my mom was butt naked in there. And my dad just about had shorts on. And I remember when he knocked on the door, we had seen from, because where the stairs were, there was like a massive window above the stairs overlooking the front door. So you could kind of look over the stairs and see who's at the door and like kind of see from their head standing down who it was. So my big sister and I ran downstairs. I've opened the door and then come downstairs. And then obviously he's asked like if my mom was there, and we said no. And then he gave me the presents. And then my dad had come out right after we shut the door, and he was like, who's that? And I can't remember what my sister said, but she kind of like gave like a little lie, basically. And then my dad had walked on the other side of the house where my mom's room was, and must have walked out from the sliding glass doors which led out the bathroom, which they were in doing crack. Because you always knew when they were doing crack, because one, you could smell it, and two, they would lock themselves in the room and like their eyes would be dilated, look like literally crackers. And once I've kind of heard that, I've opened the door, and because I saw my dad's behavior, like it was like what he had said didn't satisfy him. So I knew, I don't know why, but I just opened the front door and I looked outside, and then I see my dad, and I see obviously like my mom's ex or whatever walking down the road, and I see my dad coming out back into the house, into the front, and I see him walking down next to him. He's shouting at him, and that almost created a massive chaos and a fight. And then, if I remember correctly, the police got called, and the police were always getting called to this house. Like, we've had neighbors complain, we've had social workers turn up, like I said, and that was quite traumatic, right? Because this was always happening. Like, mom and dad would cheat on each other, and the next thing you know, we would meet the partner, and we'd either hate the partner, or we'd like the partner, or think that this partner is going to be able to help us and save us, when they couldn't. And this is why I hate cheating with a fucking core. Like, I've never cheated in my entire life, and anyone that does cheat, it genuinely, like, you're fucking scum on earth. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry at the same time, because at the end of the day, everything's a choice. And if you're choosing to be unfaithful to the person you say you love and the person you say you want to be with, you're fucked. And it says more about you than it does them, because people that cheat are looking for validation. You're looking for outside stimulation. Even like, listen, if you don't want to be in a relationship, if you feel like you need to go outside, leave the person. I don't care how complicated it is. Fucking keep your shit together. Can you not keep your dick or your pussy inside your pants? Don't make no sense to me. Ever. Because even if it's complicated, whatever it is, don't fucking cheat. Obviously, I know there's extending circumstances. If you have an abusive partner and you're trying to get away, even then, I just, listen, ask yourself a question, right? Would you want someone cheating on you? Guaranteed 99% would say no. So then why the fuck would you go and do it to someone else? If you're with someone and next you know you fall in love with someone else, you leave that fucking person. You don't go and test drive the fucking car because you're not happy with your old car, but your old car's still in the fucking garage. Go get rid of it. Then you can go have your new car and see that the grass is green or not. You know? Anyways. But the whole point, so like that, like I had always seen that. And I remember that was a memory that always hurt me because I always like, yeah, that was sad. So that's an example that I've always seen cheating. And even as kids growing up, it was constantly going on. Like there was constantly other people or a new person in the house. So yeah, so then this is also the house that I called the police on my mom. Because I can't remember if this is before this happened. I think that happened with the ex before, or no, after this incident with the plate, right? And again, because of how big my mom and dad were, in terms of like how big they were in terms of the industry that they were in terms of the porn industry, that was all just long-winded. Anything that had happened with reporters or let's say like the police, and especially with like how America is, like everything's public records. So next thing you know, I think this was after he left the ex-girlfriend, the one that we lived on South Beach, and we had to move back in with my mom. Obviously, she got the house in Plantation. I can't remember the order of how this happened, but anyways, I remember she had filed a restraining order against him. Bear in mind, I've had to go to Fort Lauderdale prison to go visit this man because the amount of times that he's been arrested for drunk driving, possession of cocaine, crack, possession, this, that, physical abuse. Like, he's got a record for being physically abusive. So I'm not like, this isn't shit isn't public, like it's very much fucking public knowledge in terms of records. Like you can Google this shit, which is scary. She had a restraining order against him, and long story short, it was Thanksgiving, and we were at the dinner table, me, my biological mom, my older sister, and my younger sister. Now, the way the table was, right? So you had this big table, 2 chairs on that end, 2 chairs on this end, 1 on that end, 1 on this end. Now, mom was sitting on this end, Taylor was sat here, I was sat here, and my other half sister, the older sister, was sat here, right? Now, my mom asked me to call my dad, and I said no. Pardon, because I said no. I said you have a restraining order on against him. You're going to try to get him in trouble. And then, because this definitely was before they've got back together, because this was before the situation where, not situation, but the rape incident, which I vividly remember. I don't know how many times, but obviously I know it happened before when I was younger, but this is like vivid memories where like I used to have nightmares about it, which I had to get over because it was very traumatic, because I could almost feel, smell, and like remember everything too vividly. Like everything else I've been able to push back, and I know it's happened, I know how it happened, but it wasn't as vivid, if that makes sense. So yeah, so we were sat at the table and she's asked me to call him and I've said no. And then she was, no, call him, I want to say grace with us. And I said, okay. So then I've called him, he's answered, and then she basically, like, the phone was on speaker in the middle of the table, and she goes, she says his name, and he's like, oh, why are you calling me? You're gonna try to get me in trouble. She said, no, we're just trying to say grace. Don't you want to say grace with us? Fucking manipulative as fuck. And then he got annoyed, and then he hung up. And then after a few moments of silence, I said, can I go upstairs and eat my food? And bear in mind, I've always been very polite, right? Like, I know how to sit at a table. I know how to speak. I have manners because of how my parents were with us growing up, how we had to be presented to outsiders. We were the Holston girls, right? So we were a direct reflection of my biological mom and my dad and how they are. So anytime we went to anything, we had to, you know, sit at the dinner table, don't put your elbows on the table, understanding how to use cutlery, speak when spoken to. So I'd be like, excuse me, like I know how to be around on a table, right? So I'm sat there and I've asked her if I can go upstairs and eat my food. She says no. And I said, please, I would really like it if I could go upstairs and eat my food. She goes, no. She then is pissed off. She's picked up her plate and she's thrown it at me. Now, before it's hit me directly, the plate, because of how she's thrown it with her right arm, and Taylor sat right next to her, the plate has hit Taylor and then shattered on her head and then hit me. So it sliced Taylor's head open. And these are China, like, China made plates. What's that word? There's a specific type of, with China. Like, why am I losing this word? So basically, point I'm making, they're very thick, they're very expensive, and they're very dent plates. It's hit Taylor's head and it's cracked open her head. And then the other parts of the glass and everything hit me here. Now, when that's happened, Taylor's head is now gushing out blood. And all I remember is screaming, we have to go to the hospital, we have to go to the hospital, we have to go to the hospital, you need to call the ambulance, you need to call the ambulance. Now, my mom's picked Taylor up and she's holding her head, just gushing blood. And she said, no, she'll be fine, she'll be fine, she'll be fine, she'll be fine. She's panicking, she's holding her, and she tries to take her to the bedroom. And all I remember was, and this is the fuzzy part, because there was so much adrenaline, I can't remember if I ended up calling the police or if my older sister called the police. I genuinely can't remember. But all I remember is me screaming, we have to go to hospital, we have to go to hospital, we have to go to hospital. And then screaming, and I think a part of me thinks that I did, because I remember screaming saying the ambulance are on the way, they're coming, you're gonna get arrested and you're gonna go to jail. And then she's walked outside and she's like, no, we're going hospital now. Because what people have to understand is, because of, I knew how to handle situations from a young age. I knew how to deal with people. And I knew how to deal with my mom's bullshit, if that makes sense. So she knew if she didn't take her to the hospital, and I said this to the police and the police came, the only reason why she picked Taylor up and was like, yeah, we're going hospital, was because she knew that the police were coming, the ambulance are coming. You're now going to go to jail for assaulting your child. And also, you were just trying to break the agreement for the restraining order with your ex-husband, and you're trying to make me do it. And obviously with her record, people always trying to get her in trouble. because of what things that she used to do, but because she could get out of it, it's like she wasn't stupid, right? This is the fucked up part. Anyone would be like, oh, but sure, what if she just saw her head and now she has to take up? No, if it was down to her, she wouldn't have taken us. She wouldn't have taken her. And I know this woman, and from time when the woman has got me outside a courtroom and I'm telling her that he's physically abusing us, sexually abusing us, and you're screaming at me through the glass telling me I'm crazy when you know what's going on, when you've had your child tell you daddy's been touching you, you know that he's been raping your eldest daughter, you know that he's been abusing us, he's abusing you, you both are crackheads, and all the shit you've had me see, had my sisters see, like, you're fucking so yeah. Next thing you know, she's walked outside, we're walking outside, we're like running outside basically to the car. Police car pulls up, ambulance pull up. First thing that happens, they take Taylor into the back of the car. And then I've gone up to the police, I've explained what's happened. They've now decided to take my biological mom into cuffs, put her in the back of the cop car. And this police officer, because the police officers in the area knew us at this point, because there's been countless occasions where I've basically been walking outside the estate of houses, and when you come out of the estate of houses, basically you come onto a main road, and it's massive. Like, there's this side of the road going this direction, this side of the road going this direction, so opposite way of traffic. And I'd be walking down the road crying, and I would have bruises on me, and my dad would be running after me. Sometimes I'd be running down the road, he'd be fucking after me, and next thing you know, the police car were driving past us, they'd flip it, and they'd come and grab us, and then he would explain some fucking bullshit. Like, the amount of times that I'd go to school and the police had had to come and pick me up, like, and take me, like, there's just been fucked up shit. So basically in that house, that's what that happened there, and it ended up in the news, so everyone knew. Like, it's still on the fucking internet to this day, and this is how the people in the UK, when Taylor decided to tell one of her friends about what was happening to us in the States, like, also you saw it, and I've pulled it up on the internet, and it's fucked. They got the ages wrong, but it's there. And yeah, so we went into foster care for a bit, and that was a blur, if I'm being totally honest. I don't know if I was given drugs or given something, but I can't remember this foster care placement to save my life. And that's how we ended up back with our dad. And then, yeah, it's fuzzy. It's really fuzzy. And I'm trying to remember. But there was like more stories that were coming back after I'd done like the last episode. So I'm trying to remember the rest of them, because the amount of times that, like, we've been driving down, like, he would have me on the back of his motorcycle, because I also grew up riding motorcycles. Like, he would just pull up the motorcycle outside his drug dealer's house, or outside a drug dealer's house. Or I remember he was like seeing this pimp, and they were talking about pimping out girls and how they could smuggle drugs and all this other shit. And he basically had me outside this house in the fucking ghetto. Guys, you guys, listen, the type of ghetto I'm talking about is you do not walk outside after a certain time. Furthermore, if you're white or you appear to be white at all, you do not walk in this fucking area. You are dead. You're gone. There's this halas. And I remember he left me by his motorcycle outside this house for God knows how many fucking hours. I was just stood there waiting for him. Stupid shit like that. Finding out, obviously, that he was feeding my mom, my biological mom, pills or birth control pills for 9 months, there was always a question of if I was actually his daughter. And I said this in my first episode. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot, and I feel like I'm trying to see if there's anything else that was coming to my mind, because talking about this on here is actually becoming a bit therapeutic. The next episode I'll talk about how I had to choose between staying in the States versus coming here, because my biological mom was here working in the UK, but I knew she was working between UK or London, Dublin and Dubai. And yeah, but I think, what do I want to touch on? Yeah, there's probably a lot more. I want to touch upon eventually, like, the side of how he used to train me and get me to fight, but I don't want to touch upon that yet. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to mention. So previously I mentioned that, like, he had taught me how to shoot a gun. Like, he got a gun in my name from Walmart. Was it Walmart? I think it was Walmart. He had gotten us a gun, or me a gun in my name. And then, long story short, in this house, and I can't remember exactly why I pulled the gun out on him. But basically, obviously the safety was on, but I didn't know. But I knew how to take the safety off, I just didn't have the key for it. So the plantation's house is also the house that I pulled the gun out on him, and I tried to shoot him and it didn't work because the safety was on. That was annoying. But yeah, so this is episode 3 of Uncomfortable Chats. Has it been uncomfortable? Not necessarily. Has it been therapeutic? Yes. And I guess the moral of today's episode is to learn to forgive but not forget. Learn to let go of the pain, but learn how to identify what isn't okay. And from a young age, I was very good at identifying what wasn't okay. And that is, honestly, I've always been very blessed, and I'm grateful for the guidance and support that I have, like, in terms of, like, if you want to call it angels, ancestors, gods, universe, whatever you want to call it. I am extremely blessed because I've always known right from wrong. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great Sunday. I am going to go to the park, even though the weather looks like it's getting a bit grey. And I am going to relax now and not overthink this episode, and not overthink the last episode or even the first episode. Because I guess for me, the way I'm saying everything, I don't want things to be taken out of context. And because there's a sense of pressure right now that I have again on myself, and it's not like pressure, it's weird. It's like, because I know I'm being recorded, it's trying to sensitize the things I want to say, but not take anything out. And I think with the type of person I am, I'm very direct, and I say things how I say them. And I genuinely don't care if people like what I'm saying or not. Because this is very vulnerable to me, and I know people are always gonna say shit, but the reality is, because I'm saying this in parts, unless you're watching everything and watching each episode and you're keeping up to date with what I'm saying, you're not gonna understand my point. Because the point's not necessarily going to be made in this episode. It's going to be made across all the episodes that are being made. So, yeah. But I hope you all have a great Sunday. Try to enjoy the weather. It's going to be hot over the next few days. It is Sunday. Let's see if it'll give me the date. The 22nd of June at, I should have just done this one, 4:02. And this is my 3rd episode, and I'm really proud of myself. And I'm really proud of myself being able to talk about everything I spoke about, because it hasn't been easy. But hopefully anyone that has been through any physical, sexual, mental abuse, and you're watching this, I hope that me talking about it is helping you realize that you need to face it. And it's not like I want you to put pressure on yourself to face something if you're not ready to face it. But the sooner you face what you've been through, instead of trying to hide from it and trying to hide it from the world, the sooner you're going to be able to explore how that makes you feel and why you feel that way, and then heal from it. Because whether you went through shit as an adult, whether you went through shit as a child, whether it's past, present, it's not okay. And that's okay. And like, I spent too many years trying to hide what I've been through, or not feeling good enough because I didn't have the perfect family growing up. I didn't have a loving family growing up. How can someone love me when I don't come with that, but they have it? How could someone love me if I've been through all of these things? How could they see me as not being damaged goods? But the reality is, everything I've been through doesn't define me. Who I am today defines me. And hopefully this is helping you realize that it's okay, and you can get over it, you can work through it. And I don't say get over it in the sense where, because again, don't want anyone to feel like this is an attack, but like get over it like you're going to forget about it. Like, I don't ever forget about what I've been through, but through healing myself, understanding myself, and diving into how I feel and what happened, and understanding that there was nothing I could do, I need to let go of this pain. It's helped me. So yes, hopefully this helps someone else.